Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the Formula Racing League. I am always the Pink Pig, and we're getting ready for round 3 here at the unofficial home of Formula Racing League, and which is Donington Park. We're on the not the full course. We're on the park course. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I can hear my own voice in my ears. Welcome back once again to the Formula Racing League. I am always the Pink Pig. There we go. Let's turn the background stream off. I am not joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Dirty Derek. He is recovering from a spate of man flu. However, that leaves me solely in charge of tonight's event. As you may have caught from last week's stream, we didn't have the best of times. Unfortunately, the updates to the servers meant that we managed to qualify pretty successfully, but unfortunately when it came to the race, it just went all wrong. So the format for this evening is qualifying for 15 minutes. Race 1 will be 20 minutes with the grid set by qualifying. Race 2 will be the grid set by the finishing positions from race 1, and that will also be for 20 minutes. And then race 3, which will be the grid for race 2, finishing positions, but a reverse grid from 2 random points between 6th and 15th. So that always goes down well for a little bit of an exciting time in the final race. Our championship standings are unchanged from last week because we had no race. So we have currently Chris Jones in 5th place on 223, Mr. Sergio Azario in 4th place on 239, Theodore Ivanov in 3rd place on 295, Marcin Morel, who had a fantastic time at Croft, in 2nd place on 312, but our runaway leader as it stands is Dan Davis, and I know we have a few of his supporters in the stands this evening, so make yourself heard. Donington Park wasn't always a hotbed for petrol heads. It was actually, but I used this stat last time, the whole was requisitioned during the First World War, used as a prisoner of war camp before eventually being returned to the John Gielgud circuit. Every year for the finale of the British GT, FRLians turn up to the FRL Straight, where we watch some fantastic racing action, and it is always a beautiful circuit. The circuit length is 1.98 miles, 4 corners to the left, 6 corners to the right, a total of 10 corners for the ones that can do quick maths. Lap guide, so go across the Wheatcroft Straight into Redgate, then down the hill into Hollywood, then you reach the old hairpin under Starkey's Bridge, through the Swartzer Curve into McLean, through Coppice, along the Starkey Straight, into the Fogarty S's, miss through Goddard's on to the start-finish straight. Action-packed lap, which is extremely difficult to overtake, so qualifying will be key for the drivers on track tonight, as we see Dave Goodway stopping probably out of place considering where he feels, well, where he should be on the overall standing, so we'll look towards a recovery round this time out. In terms of our schedule, so we've had round 1 at Brands Hatch Indy, we've also had Croft. Due to last week's interesting adventures, Donington Park has now moved to the 28th of November, which is today. Dan Davis has gone off there. Knockhill will be on the 5th of December, and the finale will be held at Alton Park on the 12th of December. I will, unfortunately, or fortunately for you, will not be here on the 5th of December, so you will have to catch up on the latest action on the 12th of December. I'm going on Ollie Bob's Mears to catch some winter sun. I need to get my big bald head tanned. So we're in our remaining moments before we go to qualifying, and that was some serious damage there from Marcin. Looked like it may have hurt some wrists. So initial free practice is over, so Goodway tops the timesheets with Williams in 2nd place. Then we have Anthony Johns in 3rd, Marcin Morel 4th, Theodore Ivanov 5th, Dan Davis in 6th, Federico in 7th, Alan Palmer 8th, with Sergio Azario 9th and Marcin Sokolowski in 10th place. I'm just going to try and figure out why I cannot get... There we go, that's first names. Let's get full names back up. There we go. We all like to know our drivers well, as the drivers are now starting to begin to queue up on the start-finish straight. On the exit of the pit line. So let's get all our data ready and raring to go. Looking at Harrison Williams in car number 42 in the red Toyota. Looked like he was teammates with Dan Davis in the last round. So there we go, we got some car logos. So we got 17 drivers on the grid. Dave Goodway, as we mentioned, thought he'd be higher up in the standings, especially with his pre-season form. Harrison Williams joins us on the grid once again with Anthony Johns, Marcin Morel, Theodore Evenor, Dan Davis, Federico Paragaro, Alan Palmer, Sergio Azario, Marcin Salowski, Rudolf Brio, Stefan Duncombe, Tom Brunel, Michael Elms, Louis, Nico Veltman and Mark Stewart all taking part tonight. So let's go! Hopefully from Theodore Ivanov, Alan Brown, game kept crashing, the PC crashed. The joys of rFactor 2. If you've never heard of us before, where have you been and why has your head been under a rock? But we do hold a variety of sim racing events throughout the week. A quick recap of them. We start our weeks on Tuesdays with rFactor 2, which is currently on Btcc, as we saw Harrison Williams running very wide there. And also on PlayStation 5 we hold our Taco Tuesday events, splitting the grid 4 ways into pros, silvers, pro-ams and ams. You can catch another stream live on the FRL Race Hub YouTube channel in the not too distant future. Tonight, by all means, we also hold Formula F1 2023 game, which is also racing on Tuesdays. Wednesdays we like to have a night off. Thursdays comes the main event. We have PC racing and the Masters and Rookie Series. Again, it's split 4 ways, and also PlayStation Late Night, which is currently the Porsche Cup. On Fridays we have FNL, Friday Night Live, and it's a worrying trend that my computer just continues to want to crash away. FNL, Friday Night Live on the F1 games, as well as PC Late Nights, brought to you by ACC Strategist app. Saturdays we hold our monthly endurance events on PC and PlayStation. You'll catch Saturday's action of the 4 hours of Zandvoort on PC, which is the Go Setups 2023 Endurance Series finale. So make sure you catch the Italian Stallion live on comms for the entire 4 hours. And on Sundays we go to the Pure Sim Gear Super Sprint season. So that's a quick recap of where we're at in terms of our racing action throughout the week. Our current grid starts off with 5th place Mark Stewart on a 1:11.3, similar time with Federico in 4th, Theodore Ivanov in 3rd place with a 1:10.6, Dave Goodway in 2nd place with a 10.2, and Dan Davis leading the way with a 1:09.771. Interesting to see how those times are comparable towards the end. Christek Jones, which I can only assume is Christopher Jones, currently in 18th place and has just joined into the fun. Michael Elms in his Vauxhall Astra is in 16th place, 1.2 seconds off the lead at the moment in terms of lap. Marcin Morel has popped himself into P1. And then we've got Tom Brunel in 13th, Mark Stewart in 12th, Federico in 11th, Rudolph in 10th. So the grid is starting to get some lap times in. Alan Palmer is just about to start his first hot lap. Louis just coming to complete his first hot lap, and that moves him up to 15th place with a 1:11.8. Chris Jones is just starting his first lap as well. So Dave Goodway currently on a quick lap at the moment, so let's join on board with him as we go towards the second, third lap. Currently just under 2.5 tenths up on the fastest lap so far. So here we would normally expect to be over on the right hand side of the track for a left right. However, we're on the left hand side of the track for a right left, bouncing across the curves, managed to keep control of the car and crosses the start finish line, and that looks as though it's going to be a new provisional pole time, and indeed it is. It's a 109.64. however, lost quite a bit of time in that final sector, which you'll be disappointed with. Let's jump over to Nico Veltman. Remember, lost a wheel in the first race of the season. So he'll be looking to try and keep 4 wheels on track tonight. So Nico Veltman just under 2 tenths down for the first sector as we start to climb back uphill at this beautiful Donington Park circuit. If you've never actually come to this circuit, I recommend it to anyone visiting. Brilliant to watch racing. If you go to the infield, you get to watch throughout the Craner curves, the Hollywood, Old Hairpin, Starkey's Bridge, Schwarzer curves, McLean's. Brilliant place to watch racing, both on 2 and 4 wheels. Beautiful campsite next door as well. So Nico Veltman just under 6 tenths down on the fastest lap so far set by Dave Goodway. Sergio Azario has popped himself just a fraction of time behind Dave Goodway into second place, dropping Marcin Morel down to third. Dan Davis 10th and a half behind the fastest laps so far. Marcin Morel just gone through sector 1 coming down the hill. There's Starkey's Bridge on the left hand side, sweeping left into the Schwarzer curve, and you've got a very tight right, which you need to be patient on that throttle as we start to go up the hill into McLean's. Again, difficult to pick your braking point out. So you equaled out his time there, 2 thousandths of a second up at the moment. There's barely a Rizzler paper in it as we now go right left onto the start finish straight now. Is this going to be a new fastest lap? Remember, Dave lost quite a bit of time in the final sector, so Marcin Morel has popped himself, keeps himself P1, lost 3 tenths of a second in that last sector alone. Anthony Johns was quite high on the practice timing boards. Drivers still have 7 minutes left, and that's not going to be a good incident in qualifying. Anthony Johns was pushing hard, and unfortunately the car he was trying to get past, there was a little bit of cuddling involved. Some paint exchange, maybe they'll exchange some insurance information in the infield. Theodore Evenov not necessarily setting the timings alight at the moment in that BMW. However, going down the start finish straight for P12 and moves himself up to P6 within spitting distance of the top 5 now. How is Mr. Elms doing? Just coming for a new fresh lap in the Rusty's Vauxhall Astra. Christopher Jones, as we all know and love, is still in 18th place, 3.9 seconds off the quickest times. Tom Brunel just going through sector 1, a couple of tenths down. So Dave Goodway has improved his lap. He's done a 109.423, making just under 2.5 tenths of a gap between himself and Sergio. Sergio just starting a new lap now in the Cupra. That is the seat. It's all Seat Leon, isn't it? I've seen a couple of Cupra car garages and just trying to understand what the bloody hell they are, because they've just come out of absolute nowhere. Making sure I'm not missing out on any of the chatter and around the YouTube channel. So, as mentioned, if you're here for the first time, please give us a subscribe, give us a like, and it will make me very, very happy. In an ideal world, we'd like to reach 1,000 followers before the year is out. They've got just over a month. Sergio's exploring track limits left and right. Let's have a look how Theodore's doing just coming out of the pits. Marcin Morel is just about to start a new lap now. So he's currently 0.242 seconds off Dave Goodway's pole position time. So let's see how Marcin gets on through Sector 1 as we're dipping down the hill. And that is 1/10.5 slower than where he would want to be. Where is Dan Davis? Stays 5th position. So Sergio's in the pits. Dave Goodway's in the pits. Marcin Morel is losing time. Harrison Williams 4/10 down in Sector 1. Anthony Johns just starting a new lap now, going down through Redgate into Hollywood. There's the crane of curves. 0.2 seconds down, so that's not gonna set the timing boards alight by the looks of things. Anthony's currently 7/10 off of the fastest lap. Dan Davis has gone into the pits for a set of brand new tyres. We've got just over 3 minutes left of qualifying before hopefully we get some racing action in. We will be sitting there and praying. So Dave Goodway's on an out lap at the moment. Sergio Azario is on a new lap. Marcin Morel is in the pits, getting a fresh set of boots on. Harrison Williams is just coming through Sector 1, so let's try and keep an eye on this time. That's 0.2 slower than where he would ideally like. Dan Davis is back out of the pits, and Theodore Ivanov, as we see in P6, would be looking to be a little bit higher than that at this stage. So Theodore Ivanov just trying to get his foot to the floor as he comes through Coppice along the Starkey Straight through the Fogarty S's. That's not going to be the quickest way to take that corner, is it? It looks slightly unstable. He's probably going to have to sacrifice this lap, probably sacrifice the next lap and try and go again. You see he lost 0.8 seconds through that last sector. So Sergio Azario just coming across the start-finish line to set another lap. Marcin Morel is in the pitch. Harrison Williams is just coming to finish a lap and start another one. Dan Davis is right behind him, so worth keeping an eye on him. So we got Sergio just coming, Dave Goodway just going through Sector 1, 1/10 seconds slower than his personal best. He's trying to keep some tyres alive for the last couple of corners. 1/10 second down on this attempt as well, so maybe not this lap, maybe next lap. Sergio Azario 3/10 slower in Sector 1. Marcin Morel is definitely slower, he's in the pits. Harrison Williams is on the go slow. Dan Davis has gone 1/10 second slower through Sector 1 in his Toyota. The Butcher is written on the side. Is he going to cut the field in two? There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here all week. So Dan Davis now breathing the car over to the left-hand side of the track. So now he is on probably one of the only times you get to relax on this track before you then probably have two most difficult turns, which can gain you and lose you and gain you so much lap time. So Dan Davis crosses the line. That is still not moved from 5th place. Dave Goodway is 3/10 slower in Sector 1. It doesn't look as though the track has ramped up as much as these drivers would hope. So Sergio Azario will have one more lap after this one. Let's have a look. Anthony Johns is in the pit. Mark Stewart is 19 seconds down from Sector 1. Don't necessarily think he was going his fastest there. Currently at the back of the grid we have Michael Elms. I'm sensing this could potentially be a huge improvement from Michael. Currently in last place. I'm not anticipating that to last for long. He has moved up to 16th place. The field is quite tight, so we've got Dave Goodway just finishing that lap, starting another one. Beautiful insight there. Is Sergio going to get one more attempt? Looks like Martin Morel has parked it. He's staying in the pits and is not going to set another lap. So Sergio Azario gets a start and one more lap. Harrison Williams is just going through the final sector now. 1.2 seconds off. Is he going to have enough time to cross the line to start another lap? Yes, he is. But that is the last driver that's going to be crossing the lap. So we have Dave Goodway 10th of a second down from his personal best time. Let's have a look as he goes to cross sector 2, timing line for sector 2. Less than a tenth of a second. I don't think he's going to improve. I think the 109.423 will be the time to beat for the chasing pack, but I don't anticipate anyone being able to do so. So Dave Goodway goes through the final 2 corners onto the start-finish straight. Is this going to be a new time? No, he's pulled into the pits. Theodore Ivanov has slammed that one into second place. So Sergio Azario having a fight on his hands to go for the final corner and has to give that one up. Harrison Williams. And Dan Davis is coming up to the final 2 corners now. Dan Davis has set a quickest middle sector, currently in 6th position. Is this going to be a game changer for the drivers at the front of the grid? 6th position changes to 5th position. So he gains at least 1 place there. Harrison Williams has gone across the line and has that position dropped to 6th place. Then we've got Martin, who's currently in the gravel at turn 1. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying complete, ready for race 1. Theodore Ivanov managed to pop that up into P2, but we've got Louis in 18th, Elms in 17th, Chris Jones in 16th, Tom Brunel in 15th, Rudolph in 14th, Stefan Duncombe in 13th, Martin in 12th, Alan Palmer in 11th, Nico Veltman in 10th, with Mark Stewart in 9th, Anthony Johns in 8th, Federico Pergaro in 7th, Harrison Williams 6th, Dan Davis in 5th, Martin Morel in 4th, Sergio Azario in 3rd place, with Theodore Ivanov in 2nd. I will leave you with the drivers driving around the track while I'm going to take a short break to have some juice. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, I am back. Just been informed that the temperature of the air temperature is a very, very cold 1 degree centigrade Celsius. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers have their hat, scarves and gloves on, because that's rather chilly. Rather chilly indeed. Louis says, I can't drive this circuit to save my life. It's all about the flow, man. You got to get into the rhythm. Got to get into the rhythm, especially as you're going through the downhill section. But it is a beautiful circuit once you get the hang of it. Not saying I've ever got the hang of it, but it is a nice circuit to drive. So drivers just going through their start-in preparation, making sure that they are completely dialed in and raring to go. Before we all have our fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong and we get some racing on our hands. Because that's what we really want. It's not a hot lapping competition. This is a racing event. So try and get to the finish line before all the other drivers behind. Hopefully putting some great manoeuvres on the way. Putting some fantastic defending. Let's hope and pray. Let the sim racing gods be with us. And hope that we have no catastrophic failures. I don't think Tom can cope. I really don't think he can. If anything untoward happens tonight. So just having a look at Dan Davis going through the final corner now, and we'll pull over to the side, and that should be the end of practice. Dave Goodway's already in the pits. Well, there's Dan. He stopped, then he started again. As we now have our grid ready, and that looks a lot better than it did last time out. So remember our top 10, we got Veltman, Stewart, Johns, Federico, Williams, Davis, Morel, Osario, Ivanov, and then Goodway in P1. So drivers are lining up on the grid, and Tom, it looks like it's worked. We will have some racing this evening for your eyes to feast upon. Let's hope for a good clean start, ladies and gentlemen. Goodway and Ivanov are our top two drivers, which you can see in front of us. We are waiting for the lights. We've got Martin, still looks like he's in the pits. No, he is not. He is out on track. So we got Louis in the pits as our only remaining driver. So let's hope he can get out in time. Can't drive the circuit. Let's hope you can get out of the pits and onto the track. At the moment, we are waiting. Lights are going, and we are go for race 1 here tonight. Dave Goodway gets an absolutely fantastic start. Sergio Osario is trying to move into P2. And it looks as though Sergio has managed to get there. Let's jump on board with Theodore. Theodore drops down from P2 to P4. Dan Davis has moved into third position by the looks of it. We have Dave Goodway has kind of drifted away. Mark Stewart, there's the driver behind, is looking onto all of this. Federico in 7th place, Martin in 8th, Brunel is firing around. So let's try and have a look towards the back of the grid as we've got Harrison Williams making a move on Brunel, and we've also got Anthony Johns has also gained that position up as well. But seems like a good clean start so far. Jumping on board with the top of that tree, which is Sergio Osario, and Marcin Morel is an interested onlooker on the rear of Theodore Ivanov, who's lost 2 places since the start of the race. As we go into the first chicane, a little bit late break, and he goes full blown send. Contact with Ivanov, more contact with Ivanov. Let's hope they don't turn around. They haven't, and they are away. Marcin Morel, well, he had his lucky pants on there. No major contact. Where is Dan Davis. Dan Davis is in 3rd place. Mark Stewart is in 6th place. Watching on this battle. Then we got Sergio Azario under pressure from Dan Davis directly behind in the Toyota Corolla as we go sweeping down through the hills at Donington Park. All the spectators on the hill. I bet that hill is colder than you would want to, but leading the way by 1.4 seconds is Dave Goodway. Federico is there as well in 8th place as he goes slipping, sliding around onto the gravel, and let's just hope he can rejoin safely. Waiting for all the cars to pass. We've got Nico Veltman, who's not had the best of starts, in 16th place in his Infinity. Louis in 17th place is a bit further behind with Rudolph in his special livery in 18th place. Then we have Theodore Ivanov is in the battle for 2nd place, but I think he's more going to be under pressure from Marcin Morel once more. He has not tried to go full-blown send this time. He has chilled out a little bit, but the gap is 3/4 tenths of a second. We get a bit squiggly there into the braking zone for this right-hander. You see Skarky's Bridge on the left-hand side, using all the exit curves available to Martin. Is he going to be in a position to try and make a move on the BMW? That BMW should, in theory, have the grunt coming out of going along the straights, but the Astra, again, in theory, should be a lot quicker through the corners. Remember, a couple of laps ago, Martin went send mode. Is he going to have to do that again? I think that was down to Theodore potentially reacting to the cars braking in front of him, and Martin not necessarily doing the same, but through the S's onto the start-finish straight, Martin does look a little bit closer. New lap, best lap time, 109.4 from Dave Goodway in race 1, leading the way by 1.3 seconds. Theodore locking the right-hand brakes up as we go through the straight. So Sergio is leading this train of cars, which features Dan Davis, Theodore Ivanov, Marcin Morel, and then right behind them is Mark Stewart under pressure from Harrison Williams as we going along the Starkey Straight now. No, we're not, I'm lying to you. He's going side by side, trying to get his move done on the Toyota of Mark Stewart. A little bit deeper. Harrison Williams spots a gap, finds the gap, goes alongside into the braking zone, is clearly ahead. That is a wonderful clean move by Harrison Williams as he goes up into 6th place. We see Sergio Azario exploring the track limits, and he's dropped from P2 down to P5. He'll be now under pressure potentially from Harrison. That promotes Dan Davis into P2. 1.9 seconds behind Dave Goodway in P1. We have a yellow flag. Well, that's not the best place, Rudolph, to park. I'm assuming he's left the pits. It is now up and away. So our driver right at the back of the grid has sustained some damage and is now rejoined in 18th place, 2 laps behind, 1 lap behind Louis. But almost caused catastrophic failure for the drivers in and around him. So back with Dan Davis, Theodore Ivanov and Marcin Morel in this trio as Dave Goodway disappears. Sergio is trying to recover his limits, basically, as we see him off in the distance. We got so there's Dan. Let's have a look at Marcin Morel alongside Theodore Ivanov into the S's this time. He's had to drop back. That BMW having that extra grunt into the braking zone. Remember, you see quite often that and Marcin has managed to pass. He's going to get a double maneuver on Dan Davis potentially. Is he? No, he has not. He's now going to go for the switchback as Dan Davis runs wide, and that gives the position to Theodore Ivanov, who has now moved up to 3rd place, and that is a terrific maneuver from Theodore Ivanov. However, the pain is existential for Dan Davis, who now drops down to 4th place, and Sergio Azario will be interested. Martin Morel, fantastic last time out at Croft, as is again once more being fantastic here at Donington Park. Theodore Ivanov all getting out of shape, giving Dan Davis an opportunity to make a move. He hasn't been able to, but still Martin Morel is in 2nd place, Theodore Ivanov in 3rd, Dan Davis in 4th. Sorry, I was just being asked a question from my daughter. She had to listen to me getting very, very excited, as we should be, as Martin Morel somehow has managed to do that, and after a mistake from Dan Davis, now Theodore Ivanov is looking round the outside. Martin Morel goes into defensive position, into the braking zone, a little bit squirrely there in 2nd place, but all the while Dave Goodway is absolutely cantering away, 4.7 seconds in front of these drivers now. But this fight for 2nd place is absolutely superb. Sergio will be hoping he can come on the back of this. Maybe a mistake, as Martin has to go defensive. Theodore will have the inside line. Dan Davis is going to go for the move as well. Theodore has definitely made it. Martin Morel has to get on the brakes, praying for no contact. Little bit of contact with Theodore. Now Theodore has moved up into P2, Martin Morel into P3. Dan Davis wants that podium spot, but he isn't able to make that move. These three, no quarter given or asked. Maybe this is going to be 4 and 5, because Sergio is back on the train here, with Harrison Williams as well in 6th place. Wow, just trying to catch my breath. That was epic. And we're seeing now on Sergio Azario, looking at the back of Dan Davis. He's going to make a move into turn 1. He is not. Maybe looking for a shape of a move through into Hollywood. We can see Martin Morel crawling all over the back of Theodore Ivanov for that 2nd place. Dan has dropped slightly off these two drivers, but I'm sure the way this race has ebbed and flowed, he will be back in the mix sooner rather than later. Sergio has driven this track many, many, many times, and I'm sure Dan Davis has as well. So we'll be familiar with how to approach the various corners of this circuit. But meanwhile, for 5th, we've also got a fight for 7th position between Mark Stewart and Anthony Johns. Anthony Johns, not the best qualifying from him. His pace is definitely better than that. We'll be hoping to get into the top 5 at some point, as we see Mark Stewart again run slightly wide through that corner. But back to our fight for 2nd place, as we have Theodore still there in 2nd, with Martin Morel 4/10 behind in 3rd. Dan Davis is cut away from these two momentarily, with Sergio and Harrison Williams also wanting to play. So let's have a look, see if Anthony Johns is going to try and make the move down the inside, and Mark Stewart thinks long term in terms of his race and allows that move to happen. However, he's going to go for the switchback as we go down the hill in Donington Park. We go right, then we go left, then we go right again. Mark Stewart, is he going to make the move? No, he's been forced a little bit wide. There's more contact, and Stewart keeps it in there. Well done, my friend. Had an epic battle with him in a rookie season, and I know how much of a clean racer Mark Stewart is, and I'm sure Anthony Johns appreciated that as well. But after being overtaken into turn 1, I didn't think he was going to come back, and he absolutely nailed it going back down the hill. So let's have a look at our fight to see if there's anyone else playing towards the end. We've got Rudolph, remember, who had that early pit stop. Louis in 17th place, with Michael Elms in 16th place, currently exploring track limits in the 248 car. That's gifted Louis P16th, Stefan in 15th, Tom Brunel in 14th. Then we got Federico in 13th place, Nico Veltman in 12th on the back of Rudolph. Chris Jones in 11th place, Martin in 10th place. Then we got Alan Palmer in 9th place. Mark Stewart has been re-overtaken by Anthony Johns, who's moved up into 7th place. Then we got Harrison Williams, Sergio Azario, looking on the fight of Dan Davis and Marcin Morel. So Dan Davis has caught massively back onto the back of the Theodore Ivanov Marcin Morel fight. And with 8.5 minutes left, he might have saved a little bit of tyres. We can see Dave Goodway miles off in the distance, 5.8 seconds in front. But Dan Davis now going through the reverse Fogarty S's onto the start finish straight. And he is definitely closer, but here is P 10th and 11th, Marcin and Chris Jones. Couple of seconds gap, or a couple of 7/10 of a second gap between the two drivers. See, is that damage or is that paint work on either light fixture? I think that might just be paint work, to be honest, not actual damage to the Infinity. Fastest lap so far of this race is Marcin Morel, who is our driver in 3rd place. As we go sliding through the corners once more, Theodore seems to have got himself into a rhythm in that BMW. The Vauxhall Astra of Marcin Morel in 3rd place, followed closely by Dan Davis in 4th, Sergio Azario in 5th, and then we have Harrison Williams 6th, John 7th, Stewart 8th, Palmer 9th, Marcin in 10th, with Chris Jones in 11th, is currently our top 11 drivers. I'm anticipating this to come back in again. The gap between Dave Goodway and Theodore has dropped slightly, but not massively, as we approach the final 7 minutes of race 1. Dan Davis is now starting to crawl all over the back of Marcin. Marcin may have used his tyres whilst fighting back through. Dan may have saved some tyres potentially. These drivers also, remember, have the opportunity to use push to pass if they're in the 2023 versions of the cars. If they're in 2021 versions of the cars, they'll be faster, but they won't have the push to pass available. Dan Davis goes a little bit on the grass as we approach the braking zone. Marcin manages to take it nice and cleanly, but this gap is getting closer. We're 0.3 of a second now between 3rd and 4th place. 6 minutes left, so roughly about 5, maybe 6 laps left. Theodore is now quite close to these two as well, so it's kind of ebbing and flowing, the gap between the two cars. So a second gap is separating 2nd, 3rd and 4th. 6 seconds is separating our leader from the rest of the pack. Remember, we do have 2 more races in store for you tonight. The finishing positions from race 1 will set our grid for race 2, and then the finishing a random point between 6th and 15th will set. Oh, Theodore gets twitchy. Theodore gets very twitchy. Marcin goes down, trying to go round the outside, which still becomes the outside, and he has so far made the move, and there's the inside contact has been made between Marcin and Theodore, which also allows Dan Davis to come up through the gap. Is Dan Davis going to move from 4th position to 3rd position? No, but oh, chaos. I don't entirely know what happened there. All I know is Theodore approached very, very, very quickly. Dan Davis managed to survive through. Harrison Williams has gained a position, so has Anthony Johns. Mark Stewart has as well. Sergio's lost a fair few positions from being some of the collateral damage to that, but our biggest loser, a man going for 2nd place, now finds himself all the way down in 8th place. Remember, there is the opportunity to stewards to review incidents post-race, so it'll be interesting to see if they have a view on that, but that got very, very messy. And unfortunately, Marcin and Sergio both massively impacted by that and have lost several positions. Sergio is now on the back of Mark Stewart, who has gained 2 positions as a result of that. Anthony Johns up to 5th, Harrison Williams up to 4th, and your podium, your runaway leader Dave Goodway, followed by Theodore Ivanov and Dan Davis currently. Chris Jones is on the defensive from Nico Veltman. Let's hope no errant tyre walls are in play this time for Nico Veltman to lose a tyre. But here is our runaway leader in the Ford Focus by 9.7 seconds. Dan Davis is trying to close down Theodore, but I think he might be a little bit nervous to try and take some audacious moves. But trying to see if the Cupra Leon is going to be 0.6 of a second between himself and Mark Stewart, so still potentially an opportunity to make a move before the end of the race and get into the top 6. I think top 5 might be too far beyond Sergio. Remember, a 4-time championship winner here in Formula Racing League, so he is able to push through the grid and win races, and is vastly experienced at being able to do so. Mark Stewart will have to fight for his life to be able to maintain 6th position. Is Sergio going to try and make the move down the inside? No, he is not. Oh yes, he is. And Mark goes a little bit too defensive, and contact is made. Sergio feels guilty and allows Mark to retain that position as we go down the hills through the Craner curves. Mark goes a little bit bouncy. Just trying to keep an eye on the gaps between cars in front and see if there's anything interesting. This is our closest fight. Nico Veltman's 4 tenths behind Chris Jones, but we'll stay with our fight for 6th position with Marcin Morel right behind, remaining very interested. We are 1:19 minutes left, so we've got roughly 2 laps left, I'm going to say. Sergio has dropped back a little bit from Mark Stewart, so let's have a look and see where. So Dave is going through turn 1 and 2, so potentially might have more than that left. As now we'll look at Nico Veltman on the Q50. Infinity contact made with the rear of Chris Jones. No harm done, as we are away and away we go for another lap. 43 seconds left. Where is Dave Goodway on track? Trying to figure this out. Yes, as he's going up into McLean's by the looks of things. Through Coppice there onto the start finish straight. I think we may have one more lap left, but we will stay on board. Yeah, we're definitely going to have one more lap of Donington Park action, so we will jump back with Dave in a few moments time, although we could potentially stop before the line. Nico Veltman has indeed where's Nico Veltman? Nico, I think he gained the position and then disappeared. Needs to be careful of his join in front of Tom, which he has done luckily. So Chris Jones is now being followed by Federico Paragaro. As we approach the last couple of corners of this lap, these guys will have one more lap to fight it out. So remember, the race clock has ended, so it'll be as soon as this man crosses the line. Theodore Ivanov under pressure from Dan Davis. Remember, this is race 1 of 3. We have 2 more races left this evening before it comes to its complete and utter climax, and we move over to Knock Hill as Theodore Ivanov goes defensive. But our race winner has led from moment A to moment Z, qualified in pole position, and will come across to win race 2 here at Donington Park and round 3 of the BTC season here in FRL. Theodore Ivanov looks as though he's managed just to claim beef. No, Dan Davis has got it. Theodore Ivanov gets 3rd place. Harrison Williams gets a well-deserved 4th. Anthony Johns makes it up to 5th place. Mark Stewart being followed closely by Sergio is 5th and 6th. Marcin Morel will feel a little bit aggrieved in 7th place. Alan Palmer in 9th place. Marcin Solorowski in 10th place. Chris Jones makes 11th. Federico in 12th place. Then we have Tom Brunel in 13th place. Nico Veltman in the wars slightly defending from Stefan Duncombe in 14th and 15th place. Louis gets 16th place. Michael Elms will finish in 17th place. A few seconds behind Louis. And last place is already finished is Rudolph, but Michael Elms finished the race in 17th place. Oh, that was an interesting race full of controversy. Interesting to see if any of the stewards will have a view of anything that happened on track tonight, and maybe the race results from Race 1 will change. Remember, post-race instant reviews are available to drivers within the Formula Racing League Discord. We will have a short break momentarily whilst we get ready for Race 2. And we'll pray, once again, that sim racing gods are going to be kind to us and we can get some more furious racing action. Back momentarily. Hello and welcome back. We got 3 minutes left to go of this free practice session until we get the racing underway for race number 3. Just trying to pick a car to click on. There we go. Let's get rid of that horrible little box. Recently, within the Discord, we've released our 2024 endurance calendar for both PlayStation 5 and also PC. So I'll try and have a recap of that. I think I've closed Discord down, which I have done. So let's try and bring that back up, shall we? And then we can talk you through our plans for next season. Everything seems to be going wrong, so I'm not going to risk trying to click on random boxes on screens before we get our racing underway. But I do have just a quick reminder of our grid for race 2. Apparently someone broke a glass in the house a minute ago. So we'll start from 18th and work our way up. Is it me, or does that look very, very jittery indeed? Let's hope and pray. But 18th we have Rudolph, then we have 17th Michael Elbs, Louis in 16th, then Stefan in 15th, Nico in 14th, Tom in 13th, Federico 12th, Chris Jones in 11th, Marcin Solodowski in 10th place. And this does not look healthy at all, as we're currently looking at Martin jittering through the track. Not sure what's going on in the background, but let's try and look at another car on track. That does not look healthy either. Hopefully corrects in a couple of seconds. We seem to have had 2 drivers also leave the grid. So Martin Morel in 8th, Sergio Azario in 7th place, Mark Stewart in 6th, Anthony Johns 5th, Harrison Williams 4th, Theodore Ivanov 3rd, Dan Davis in 2nd, and our pole position driver for race 2 will be Dave Goodway. So you see Mark Stewart bouncing across the curbs. Trying to figure out why A, it's very glitchy, and B, Michael was upside down in the bushes. Everyone is in the pits. We've lost 2 drivers. I'm just hoping and praying we have a decent grid. So we're on board with Theodore Ivanov as the lights correct around us. Our cars will come out of the pits onto the grid. We're down to 16th cars. Just trying to figure out who potentially is missing. Dan Davis looks as though it's one of those vehicles. Interesting. Right. And obviously one of the lead drivers in the championship. Let's hope that problem is not terminal. We've got 5 seconds until the race begins, and we are away we go for race 2. Dave Goodway once again gets a decent start. Theodore Ivanov also has a good start directly behind as we head into turn 1. Cars going all over the track. Theodore Ivanov will take the lead into turn 1. And that is Anthony Johns in 2nd place, Mark Stewart in 4th, Williams in 5th, Sergio Azario in 6th place. But Theodore Ivanov currently leads the way, going down the hill through Crater Curves. Everyone looks as though they've got away nice and cleanly, which is great news. But Theodore runs wide! Theodore has run extremely wide as we come back on track, avoiding the cars on our right hand side. But Theodore has dropped all the way down to 7th, 8th, 9th place. And there's complete death as Chris Jones impales the car in front. And Theodore's luckily to get away with that. Dave Goodway once again leads the way with Anthony Johns in 2nd place. Well, that was an interesting start. Theodore had a fantastic getaway and unfortunately runs wide, which causes absolute mayhem towards the back of the grid. Marcin Morel is in 4th place, as we can see him just in front of Sergio Azario in 5th. So that was a place gained right at the start. Tom Brunel is under pressure from Theodore Ivanov as Theodore looks to make the move, and he has done, but looks at no, that's Louis. Theodore is in 7th place, a little bit further down the hill, trying to chase down Mark Stewart, but we'll stay with Sergio and Marcin. That gap is 3/4 tenths of a second between 4th and 5th place, but there is quite a big battle going on behind, as we've got Mark Stewart just holding up at the moment. Theodore Ivanov. Theodore will want to try and get that move dispatched as quickly as possible. Louis is the driver in front of this, well, Tom is the driver in front of this train of Rudolph and Chris Jones. Chris Jones we saw involved in an incident with a BMW, which I think was Federico Pegaro. But is there going to be an opportunity for Sergio to make a move into turn 1? No, there is not. Harrison Williams is under pressure from giving some pressure to Anthony Johns, but Marcin Morel is trying to chase him down as well as we go down the hill into the Crater Curves. No move is made as yet. Let's have a look at what's happening a little bit further down the grid. And looking at the fight for P10 or P8, we've got Louis, Tom, Rudolph and Jones currently in there, and you could probably add Federico and Nico Veltman to that mix as well. As the man puts his heater on because it is bloody cold this evening. Not as cold as these drivers. Remember, pre-race information, 1 degree on track. Is Chris Jones going to make a move on Rudolph? No, he's definitely not going to do it there, as he runs extremely deep, gifting the place to Federico and also Nico, as we have, is that Stefan Duncombe running very, very wide, losing the position to Michael Elms as in the process as well. And losing another one to Marcin, I believe. So I'm not sure what happened to Dan Davis. If anyone can give me some information. Had a mega start and clipped the grass. So Louis said, a mega start, hit the grass, picked the pace up at the end and got so much more comfortable. Ended up going 1.3 seconds. Well, there we go. That is excellent. Well done, Louis. So this is the fight for 2nd place, with Anthony Johns leading Harrison Williams, leading Marcin Morel, leading Sergio Azario. Marcin will want to try and get this move done as well. Williams will want to try and get this move done as quickly as possible. Joys of being the colourblind man, you can never tell the difference between the two colours of cars on track when they look very, very similar, in my eyes, I will add. But Anthony Johns is currently front of these 3 cars. Dave Goodway once again disappearing off into the distance here in this BTC event at Donington Park. Yes, Dan, I completely agree. It's so buggy and it is so infuriating because the racing is so good. I just don't understand why it's been out long enough. There can't be some of these bugs fixed, but hopefully you manage to get back in for race 3 as there's change of positions towards the back of the grid as we got Nico Veltman is now in front of Rudolph, in front of Chris Jones lurking around in the background. Yellow flag in sector 1. Is that Louis? That is Louis off the track exploring the grass at Donington Park. I can promise you it is wet and cold out there and it's not somewhere where you want to be. Anthony Johns still is in second place, followed closely by Williams and Morel. Morel searching for a gap, a weakness in the armour of Harrison Williams as we approach turn 1. Theodore Ivanov currently the fastest driver on track with a 109.112. Martin going to look left and look right. Plane just overhead, landing at East Midlands Airport. I can promise you the runway is literally over that hill, and Webby and the campsite, they fly straight over your head from 5-6 o'clock in the morning. It is not fun. One of the reasons why this track is an absolute... Oh, is he going to make a move? No. Absolute nightmare in the rain is because of the jet fuel being dropped onto the track. Makes this this place an absolute slippery nightmare. See all the camper vans parked on the right hand side as Martin Morel is going to make the move into the fog. As he made it, he will have the inside line for the first part, but then we'll have the outside line. But the move has been made and Martin Morel moves himself up to third place. Yes, big points gone, but hey ho, that's racing indeed. But it's not the way anyone wants to lose points. I suppose most the sick and twisted part of our heads would prefer to have someone absolutely impale us and destroy us than have a disconnect. But yeah, I completely get where you're coming from, Dan. Martin Morel has now moved up into third place. He'll be trying to chase down Anthony Johns in second place, but Harrison's not letting him go. Harrison's definitely not letting him go as we go towards the sweeping right-hander of Coppice. A long, never-ending right-hander. I seem to be getting distracted from which direction the planes are going at the moment. But there is plenty of action on track as he gets all out of shape there, Martin. That's going to give Sergio Azario a great opportunity. Going down the straight, and that's not going to be the way you manage to get that move done. Theodore Ivanov in 6th place is the driver, just in the background there, in the rear of Sergio, or looking at the rear of Sergio. We have just over 11 minutes left of this race. Let's hope, Dan, you can manage to get back in for the final race of the evening to minimise the impact. But you will definitely have some work to do. So here we have the battle for fourth. Harrison Williams, Sergio Azario, Theodore Ivanov. Sergio trying to look for any way possible to get this move done. We've also got a fight for 13th place between Martin and Stefan. I try and pull for a curse grid then. That's all down to the man with the spinning wheel, in hope that server doesn't throw a fit again. Remember, social media, hashtag FRL for any of your post-race pictures. Harrison getting a little bit twitchy there, trying to keep keeping Sergio very interested in 5th place. He'll be hoping for no calamities for the remainder of the race. Also trying to figure out who was the other driver, because they were 18. Federico's in. Nico Veltman in the Infinity is going to try and make a move here after Rudolph makes a slight mistake going down the hill into the right-hander. He's going to try and send one up the inside of McLean's. No, he's not. He's going to try and get the wider line through the exit as we head up the short hill to Coppice. Rudolph goes into a nice defensive position. No move made there, but now Nico's going to get the foot to the floor and try and make the move on the right-hand side. Will be his ideal position. Gets back into the slipstream of Rudolph. No move's going to be made here. I don't think he's got too much of a gap behind. Nico goes left, right. Rudolph makes a mistake, goes very deep. Oh! Excellent racing by Nico Veltman. Slight mistake by Rudolph, who's lost a position to Chris Jones behind as well. But Nico with reactions like a cat to get that move and not get any terminal damage. I can only assume that was Federico in 15th place. But we've got Theodore just behind. I think it must be Federico. Let's have a... No, it's not Federico. There must be another BMW on track. Oh, Sergio's gone very deep through the final corner. Is that going to give Theodore an opportunity? Not right now, but Theodore may feel like he needs a full-blown send into turn one. Decides not to make that move, and probably rightly so. So into Redgate, now down into Hollywood. Through the Craner curve. Into the old hairpin. Excellent racing circuit, but very, very difficult to make a move. We've got Rudolph now trying to crawl all over the back of Tom Brunel. Man generally always busy playing with servers in the background. It's always nice to see the admins of Formula Racing League get some racing action done. Is Rudolph going to try and make a move? I don't know why I keep saying move like that, but I'm going to stick with it. Is he going to try and engage the opposition throughout this corner and potentially make a passing manoeuvre? Not on this occasion. Let's go for our fight for third. We've got Martin, Harrison, Sergio and Theodore. Dave Goodway is in first place by 5.6 seconds over Anthony Johns in second place. Martin Morel in third, 1.7 seconds behind Anthony John. So Johns, you can see just as that Astra right at the bottom of the hill. Sergio is under pressure from Theodore. Theodore's right hand tyres absolutely squealing as normal in that BMW. But leading these cars at the moment is Martin Morel, holding on to that podium position. Has the opportunity to potentially close down on some of those points lost in race one, as Theodore goes to the move on Sergio into the chicane. Contact side by side. Sergio and Theodore side by side down the start finish straight. A little bit of bumper to bumper action as we go into turn one. Theodore's trying to get back onto the racing line and pushing Sergio off. Somehow there isn't a pile of dirt and dust on the track as Theodore moves up into fifth position. Were my eyes deceiving me, or did it look like Theodore was trying to get back onto the racing line before he had actually passed Sergio? That was my impression, which meant then Sergio had to potentially back off. But Again, we'll leave that one up to the stewards. We have 5 minutes left of this race. Tom Brunel is chasing down Chris Jones in the Infinity. And remember, we saw Chris Jones hit it. Well, I wouldn't say he hit someone, but there was contact that was made from a car that was sideways across the track. Tom isn't going to get anywhere in that battle by going through the dirt. Nico Veltman is the car in front. Then we got Federico and Martin in the fight, but with Michael Elms in the fight for 12th position. One thing I love about sim racing is there's a wide move from Martin, which gifts the position to Federico. Martin is back on track in the Vauxhall Astra, but it doesn't matter if you're 15th, 2nd, 1st. Is he making a move? Yes, he is trying to make the move on Chris Jones. Round the outside. Not move there into Redgate. Is he going to try and do it into Hollywood? Not this time, isn't he? Now go back down the hill. It doesn't matter if you're 1st, 10th, 15th, 30th, 40th, 101st. You will fight tooth and nail for every position, as Theodore Ivanov is doing now. Side by side with Harrison Williams. He has got that move up into 4th place. And once again, Theodore Ivanov's recovery drive from 2nd on the grid, remember, led the race for the first couple of corners and then went wide after the old hairpin, which dropped him right back down the grid, and has again had to fight back through to be challenging these podium positions. That Theodore pushes Harrison a little bit wide in the braking zone, not leaving the driver behind much room whatsoever, which then puts Harrison Williams under threat from Sergio Azario behind as we go through the old hairpin. Just under 3 minutes left of this race. Martin's managed to pull that gap to about a 2nd as we got a yellow flag in sector 2. Sergio has the inside line, but Harrison managed to keep the traction down, so we go through another right hand corner now. Is Sergio going to have the opportunity to make the move before the end of this race? We've got 2.5 minutes left. Harrison seems to have stabilised himself a little bit as we go through the reverse Fogarty S's. Gets a decent exit. Harrison Williams also gets a decent exit as we go into Redgate one more time. Drivers are utilising the pit lane as much as possible to get as wide an entry point as possible for Redgate as we now go down into Hollywood. Through the old hairpin. Sergio goes very wide. That's going to be a track limit infringement surely, or at least a warning, but that gives a little bit of a reprieve. We will go to our fight for P2 with Anthony Johns currently in P2, Martin Morel P3, Theodore Ivanov P4. This could get interesting with a minute and a half left of this race. Leading the way once more, Dave Goodway by 7.4 seconds. Theodore Ivanov goes for the move, slams on the brakes, right tyres again squealing, and gets that move on Martin Morel. Theodore Ivanov looks as though he is the quickest man on track currently, dropping Martin Morel to P4. Theodore Ivanov is back on the podium. Now we'll be challenging Anthony Johns, but Martin Morel doesn't want to give this up as into Redgate attempts to make the move, not given this time. Going down through Hollywood, down the hill one more time. 50 seconds left. I just don't know how Theodore's tyres last with all that squealing. He goes a little bit wide. Martin doesn't want to give that podium position up and almost makes contact with the rear of Theodore Ivanov. Not this time. We have Sergio fighting Harrison Williams behind. Is Martin going to make a move? No, he's made contact with Theodore 17 seconds left. Let's have a look. We will have at least one more lap of action of these drivers as Martin Morel's going to go for Sen. Oh no! And somehow Theodore kept it. I thought that was going to be death. But no, somehow Theodore managed to keep the car pointing the right way through the S's and stays in third position. But I got a funny feeling that Martin Morel does not want to let this go as Theodore gets all out of shape. Time has ticked over. This will be the last lap of the race. See Dave Goodway miles off in the distance in front. Theodore's going to fancy his chances potentially of taking P2 away from Anthony Johns. Martin Morel fancies his chances of taking P3 away from Theodore Ivanov. This will go all down to the wire. Into the braking zone, gets close again from Martin Morel, but Theodore pulls away, goes a little bit wider than he ideally would want to, kicking up the dust behind. We will try and stay on this for as long as we can. Is Theodore going to make the move down into the final cut turn? So Dave Goodway wins race 2 of tonight's race. Anthony Johns is in P2. Is Theodore Ivanov going to get P2? No, he gets P3. Well done, Anthony, for holding on. Martin Morel claims P4. Harrison Williams gets P5 from Sergio Azario in P6. Mark Stewart will claim P7. Nico Veltman comfortable in P8. Tom Brunel in P9, followed by Rudolph in P10. Federico currently in P11. But our fight at the moment, which we want to look at, is Michael Elms versus Martin Solowski. As we go through Coppice, is Michael going to make the move into the final 2 corners of this lap? He shapes, he sends. That's Martin sending. Goes very, very deep on the exit, side by side. Is Michael going to make the switch back? No, he is not, as Martin keeps P12. Then we got Christopher Jones in P14, Stefan Duncombe in P15, and bringing up the rear, unfortunately, is Louis. He's already in the pit. Once again, another incident-packed race 2. Ow. That sounded like someone absolutely demolished a wall. With Dave Goodway once again coming out on top. An unfortunate disconnect has left Dan Davis hoping he can get back into the server for the final race of the evening. Anthony Johns in second place. Theodore Ivanov fighting his way back up from second, drop into 9th place, up to 3rd again. Martin Morel 4th place. Harrison Williams in 5th. Sergio Azario in 6th. Mark Stewart 7th. Nico Veltman 8th. Tom Brunel in 9th. Rudolph in P10. Federico Pergaro in P11. Martin Solowski in P12. Michael Elms in 13th place. Christopher Jones in 14th. Stefan Duncombe in 15th, with Louis in 16th. There will be a random grid draw for the final race of the night. Any position between 6th and 15th they'll be reversed from, so we will wait and see what that brings us. So we will be back momentarily. Right, we are waiting for drivers to come back on. Good news is we are back up to 18 drivers. I think it might have been Alan Palmer was the other driver that unfortunately missed out. So we've got Dan Davis as well back in. So the grid, as I understand it, for race 3 will be Dave Goodway in 16th, Anthony Johns in 15th, Nico Veltman in 14th place. Then we have Tom Brunel in 13th, Martin Morel in 12th, Rudolph in 11th, Sergio Azario in 10th, Harrison Williams 9th, Mark Stewart 8th, Theodore Ivanov 7th, Federico Pagaro in 6th place, Marcin Salonowski in 5th place, Michael Elms in 4th, Chris Jones in 3rd, Stefan Duncombe in 2nd place, with Louis in 1st place. So that is the grid as I come to know it at this moment in time. That may change due to two drivers being able to rejoin, so let's hope and pray nothing happens to them or anybody else ahead of the final race of the evening. We have one 20-minute session left. We have 2 minutes left of this practice session before we go one more time. So just a quick recap of our schedule for the remainder of the season. So we've had one race at Brands Hatch. Croft was race 2. Donington Park is being rearranged from the 21st to the 28th. Next round is at Knock Hill. Unfortunately, there will be no live commentary for that. I will be in Cyprus. And the finale, which I will definitely be here for, is round 5, which will be at Alton Park. So I will be back for that one to catch the action for the finale, whilst I'll be trying to figure out the race results as we go. So a few spreadsheets may be open. So Dan has managed to pop in a 1:10.9 in practice, just trying to get back in the rhythm after a 20-minute break. And we will just hope and pray all 18 cars manage to get to at least the green light and hopefully get to the checkered flag as well. See, is that Tom just disappearing over the barriers? But there is the checkered flag, so we'll just wait for the final couple of drivers to finish off their laps. As we can see, Martin going for an excursion, Mark Stewart going through the final corner now. I think these are our two remaining drivers. There's Martin just parked up on the side. He should pop into the pits. Mark Stewart dives into the pits to go meet his pit crew's wall.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now?
So we'll just get our screens ready for the start of the race. Remember, Louis will go in P1. So it looks as though Alan Palmer starts 17th with Dan Davis in 18th place. That's a lovely Dynaco livery, Alan. So we've got Michael Elms in the Rusties, and the Dynaco 44 livery from Alan Palmer continues the theme of cars. Oh yeah, sorry, I had to figure that one out. So leading the way will be Louis, but he just needs to pop out on track as we're starting to get a little bit of dusk here in Formula Racing League's race 3 of round 3. We have now broken the back in terms of the season. We're on the second half of it. So Louis is indeed on track, so we will get going in 7 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and we are go. And Louis doesn't get the best of starts. Cars straight away trying to move out of the alignment as we have Stefan Duncombe, who's going to lead the cars down into turn 1 of Redgate. No, Louis managed to get it. Louis got it. He's in P1. He leads the first 2 corners here tonight as we got the lights taking effect. Lots of cars with the faster cars trying to cut through the grid. And we have yellow flags right at the back. Theodore Ivanov is already up into 6th place. But Louis runs deep. Louis gives up the lead. Stefan Duncombe will take it. Louis comes back on track, facing the wrong way, and bam! Death? More death? I'm not sure how to explain that, but Theodore's moved up into 3rd place as we now are able to get our boxes back up again. Stefan Duncombe leads the way. Federico is in 2nd place. Is he allowing his fellow BMW driver? Absolutely not. But Theodore will get P2, and he now begins to chase down Stefan Duncombe. Well, that chase is already over, and Theodore Ivanov leads the way. Harrison Williams will be after a move as Stefan Duncombe goes a little bit wide, a little bit deep. Trying to get the right screens up in front of me at the moment. So the battle for first: Theodore, Stefan Duncombe, Harrison Williams, Federico. At this moment in time, Dave Goodway's already up into 8th place. Has he managed to get through all that death? Sergio Azario certainly didn't. He's in 18th place with Nico Veltman 17th, Johns in 16th. Then we got Martin, Tom, Louis in 15th, 14th and 13th. Mark Stewart in 11th. Chris Jones in 11th. So I'm just trying to find the battle to stay on. Here is Federico being chased down now by Stefan, who momentarily led the race for a couple of corners until he went deep. But lights certainly starting to take effect. So the sun is setting here in the Midlands. Dan Davis from last position is already up into 6th. Moving out of Michael Elms, and that move is made quite easy. Marcin Morel moves up into 6th place as well. So Dan Davis now will start to chase down Stefan Duncombe, as you can see the fog in the distance as well. It's going to make it harder for these drivers to see and make moves. This track is already a very, very difficult track to pass on, as we see Louis falling further down the grid. Mark Stewart's in the pits. Nico Veltman has had a DNF. Martin Morel's going to try and make slightly being held. Dan's slightly being held up by Stefan Duncombe in front, which Martin Morel is doing his best to take that to his advantage. Let's turn my heater off. It's bloody warm now. Jump on board with Martin. Is he gonna? Yeah, he's gonna go send. And Dan Davis moves across, manages to keep the car in the track limit. Stefan is a victim there, and he drops from P4 to P6 behind Dan Davis and Martin Morel. So Dan Davis immediately up to 4th place, but he's going to be kept company by Martin Morel. Possibly Dan was hoping that Stefan was going to hold up Martin for at least half a lap so Dan could focus on Federico in 3rd place. Remember, leads in the championship and leading the championship comfortably. Last race will have impacted him because he would have lost all the points, all potential points. Dave Goodway is now up to 5th place in front of his friend Stefan. Sure, there was no team orders there, especially as Stefan looked like he left the track, to be honest. So Harrison Williams within 8/10 of Theodore, so that gap hasn't been extended by too much. Federico in 3rd place on his own at this moment in time. However, Dan is a second behind, kept company by Marcin, who is like a dog with a bone. Louis started P1, unfortunately has also got a DNF. Marcin Morel, fastest driver on track at the moment with 109.7. Dave Goodway is not too far behind these drivers. Marcin tries to go down the inside through Hollywood, side by side racing action. Dan will have the inside line slightly drifting across the track through the old hairpin now as Marcin goes spinning. Marcin has gone spinning, and he's gonna almost had his nose chopped off there. But this is massive positions lost by Marcin Morel, who rejoins in 10th place. Lost it through the old hairpin, battling with Dan Davis, and now has fallen all the way down into 10th place. Michael Elms looking at the back of Stefan Duncombe. Tom Brunel being followed by Anthony Johns. Anthony Johns is going to have the inside line into the old hairpin now, and Johns makes that move very comfortably. No, he does not, because Tom Brunel does not want to let it go after Johns slides quite wide through the corner. Alan Palmer and Michael Elms, the two cars' liveries, fighting it out for 7th place. Stefan Duncombe is the car just in front now, fastest driver on circuit. Dave Goodway right on the back of Dan Davis, 4/10 of a second, separating these two drivers, with Federico just in front as well. So I want to see what's going to happen between the two cars. I know they're good friends off the track, but how will their friendship fare on the track? The Dynaco Racing driver, and oh no, Stefan goes wide, and collateral damage is Alan Palmer. Had to sit out race 2, which gives Elms the position and also Rudolph the position. Marcin gains a position as well. But sadly, I don't think that's anything that could have been helped, as we got 4 drivers going through. Federico, Goodway. Oh! Goodway makes contact with Federico. Dan Davis is up into 3rd place. Federico is parked on the exit of the chicane. Dan Davis has 3rd, Goodway 4th. I'm trying to find out who that is. That Mark Stewart, the other driver that was in the mix? Yes, it is. But Dan Davis has 3rd place. Federico is still on track in 7th place, behind Michael Elms. In 7th place. Michael Helms in 6th. Rudolph is in 5th place. So definite better performance this time around from Rudolph. But here is a fight for 6th place between Michael Elms and Federico. Elms going on the defensive. Federico will go inside line for the second part into the old hairpin. Forces Michael wide, and that move at the moment is stuck, and the BMW puts its foot to the floor and disappears. So Federico up to 5th place. Dave Goodway fighting with Dan Davis. Remember, Dave Goodway has not had a good race 3. As he comes back on track in front of Dan Davis, and immediately has to yield that position. But that was an interesting moment. Marcin Morel fell back slightly there to Federico. Federico now in P6. Dan Davis so has to go defensive into the old hairpin. Well, you can go as defensive as you like. That must have been... I am bloody confused. So there's Dave Goodway. there's Dan Davis. There is no sign of Dave Goodway anywhere near him, and that's because there's a gap of 3.13 seconds. So that's why there was no sign of the other car. It's been a long day, ladies and gentlemen. Been a long day indeed. So we still have, well, there is another race ongoing at this moment in time on Taco Tuesday, commentated by the wonderful Tom Keynes, and then on Thursday you have the Masters Series, commentated by Raven himself, and the Rookie Series, commentated by the Italian stallion Chromadix. To feast your eyes on some wonderful racing action. But Tom Brunel was attempted to make a move, but there we go. Right, so our P1 driver is Theodore Ivanov. Has had to do a lot of fighting tonight, but this race seems a little bit more easy on his wrists, leading the way by 2.6 seconds over Harrison Williams. Dan Davis a further 7 seconds behind. 2.2 seconds behind him is David Goodway. 9 seconds further back is Rudolph in 5th. Federico in 6th. Martin Morel in 7th place. Let's catch the action on Martin and Federico in the fight for 6th. Then we got Elms in 8th. Palmer in 9th. Christopher Jones in 10th. Is Martin going to make a move on Federico close to that rear bumper as the sun is definitely getting lower through Coppice along the long straight before the reverse Fogarty S's. Federico runs slightly wide. He'll have the inside line into Redgate. But Martin certainly has had a better exit, will potentially have a better entry as well. But Federico managed to keep his car in the right place. Into Hollywood they go. Still, Federico holds on to 6th place. A little bit of contact with Federico's rear end. Federico keeps the car on the straight and narrow. Down into the old hairpin, blocking the right hand side, breaks up as the BMW has frequently done this championship, runs wide through the old hairpin, which gives Martin Morel 6th place. So persistence was definitely key for Martin Morel. As you can see, Rudolph is the next car in front, and Martin will be hoping for 5th place. He's already losing points to Dan Davis in race 3, but it's trying to minimise that damage as much as possible, and maybe hope that Dan loses places to Dave Goodway and himself potentially as well before the end of the race. Still a lot of driving to do before we get to that point. We've still got 8 minutes left. We got our 3, probably 4 retirees of Nico Veltman, Louis, Stefan Duncan, Mark Stewart, who's been in the pits for 9 minutes. So I don't think we're going to see Mark again this race. He is currently 2 laps down. So yeah, 2 laps down. But Martin is on the offensive on Rudolph. Very close to that rear end once more. You can smell what he had for breakfast. Going through Coppice. Drivers will have similar power, so it's all about technique on how you enter and how you exit the corners. Gap between Goodway and Davis still stands at 1.3, 1.4 seconds. Gap in front stands at 4 seconds as Martin Morel is going to try and get the better entry into Redgate. Into Hollywood at the moment has his nose in front. Rudolph into the braking zone will be ultra cautious and allow Martin Morel to move up to 5th place. 13 seconds, however, behind Dave Goodway, so you wouldn't fancy his chances of gaining any more positions. Federico is all over the back of Rudolph to potentially rub some salt into that wound of Martin Morel being able to pass and move himself up to P6. lights are definitely hard at work here at Donington Park for these drivers. You see plenty of damage on the left-hand side quarter panel of that Astra. Will not make that a comfortable ride for Rudolph as we approach the last knock-ins of round 3. Different shapes being thrown there by Federico. No move made there, unfortunately. Back on the battle of the cars livery. Somehow Alan Palmer's managed to claw back into Michael Elms. Back to the fight for 6th place between Rudolph and Federico. Federico looking left, looking right to attempt to make a move. Nothing is being done at this moment. Alan Palmer is going to make a move down to the old hairpin as Michael Elms runs wide. Palmer will have the inside line, and he has managed to make that move. Sergio Azario is the next driver on the grid who's going to look to try and overtake Michael Elms, but Federico is still being held up by Rudolph, who wants to hang on to that 6th position. Bouncing through that final chicane. 4 minutes left of tonight's event. Remember, next week we go to Knock Hill for 3 more rounds of furious racing action. And having raced on that track in the Clios, it's going to be interesting, and it's a shame I'm going to miss out on that one, to be honest, but at least it's not the finale. So Sergio has managed to pass Michael Elms and is now up to P9. Federico still searching. Just over 3.5 minutes left of this final race tonight. Let's have a quick look, see if anyone's talking in the chat. Was having a good race till I got spun around. Donnie, it's been a shocker. Yeah, there's not much room to manoeuvre. You had a great start. From my memory, I think it touched the grass and just went straight across the track, and then death ensued. But it's a very, very narrow track with limited, well, there's quite a lot of runoff area, but that grass will kill you. So many opportunities to get a huge bout of oversteer. Alan Palmer is now going to potentially be under pressure from the Raging Bull. Sergio Azario, Federico getting a little bit off his line and getting desperate in trying to overtake Rudolph. Rudolph is, if we look at their fastest laps, Federico's fastest lap is a 1:10.4. And Rudolph's fastest lap of 1:10.7. It's not a huge difference between the gaps, but you do fancy, if an overtake is made by Federico, he has potential to drive away quite comfortably. Sergio Azario on the back of Alan Palmer. Sergio, again, one of those drivers who, to be honest, should be higher up on the grid, got caught in all that mess right at the start of the race. It fell right to the rear of the grid and has had to fight its way back through. Gap between 3rd and 4 is down to 0.6 of a second. So something to keep us warm on this chilly winter evening potentially is a fight between Dan Davis and Dave Goodway. Sergio Azario goes for a move down the inside into Redgate, and that is as easy as it comes for a driver as talented as Sergio. Federico has moved up into 6th place. This must all mean that there's going to be a fight for 3rd place between Dan Davis and Dave Goodway. Double D action on your screens. No, it's not on a certain site. It is on FRL Race Hub. Dan Davis versus David Goodway for the last couple of laps. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2. Dave Goodway is going to try and go around the outside into Redgate. Dan will try and defend this and should be able to do so, but the switchback is on. Potentially a little bit of contact with the rear. There is driver just returning to the track behind them in Hollywood as they go down the hills through the Craner curves before we hit the old hairpin. Talented. Oh, Dave Goodway! I have absolutely no idea what happened there. I'm going to attempt to do a replay, see if that works. No. That's just him. Coming back on track. See if this works. No idea, but that is not what I wanted to do. So, sorry, trying to figure out the buttons. We have had our winner, Theodore. Sorry, I was messing around with the replay buttons, which was terrible. Theodore Ivanov wins race 3, and congratulations to him for his first win of the evening. Harrison Williams claims P2 with Dan Davis in P3. Marcin Morel will claim P4 ahead of Dave Goodway in P5. Federico in P6 with Rudolph in P7. Crossing the line just behind is Alan Palmer in P8 with Sergio Azario in P9. Michael Elms will cross the line in P10 in the Rusties Cars livery. Tom Brunel coming through the final couple of corners will claim P11. And Chris Jones will claim P12 in the Infinity. Already in the pits, we have Marcin Solodowski in P13. Anthony Johns unfortunately gets a DNF, and Mark Stewart is actually back out on track in P15. But our winner for race 3 is Theodore Ivanov. That was eventful. Not quite sure what happened with Dave Goodway. It looked like something strange happened with the steering wheel potentially. Absolutely no idea, but that even after missing that one race, I still think probably Dan Davis still leads the championship. Marcin doing his best to stay in touch, and that gaining P4 in that race will certainly help in that regards. Dave Goodway wants to stay in the championship fight, but I think even with 6 races to go in this championship, that's going to be a tall order. We go again for next week at Knock Hill, but that is all she wrote for round 3 of the championship tonight. What 3 fantastic races. Dave Goodway coming out on top on 2 of those. Theodore Ivanov coming on top on the final race. We go again next week, but at least we managed to get Donington Park done.